All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Carter Purple. I'm 17. I'm a senior at Westford Academy. Um, I'm pretty independent. I tend to lean left, but I also see the right side of things, so I like to call myself an independent.
Hi, my name is Mateo Berman Sample. I am 17 and I'm a senior at Westford Academy, and my pronouns are he, him, and I am a liberal and a Democrat.
Hi, I'm Adarsha Ramesh. I'm 16 and I'm a junior at Westford Academy, and I identify as a Democrat, although I am a little conservative.
Hi, I'm Hema Wadlamani, and I'm a sophomore at Westford Academy, and I'm also a Democrat.
Hi, my name is Samrita Murthy. I'm 16 and I'm a sophomore at Westford Academy. I identify as a leftist and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, my name's Tanya Purohit. I'm 14 and I'm a freshman, and I identify as a liberal and a Democrat. And
So I think the first things I saw were on Twitter, and then a couple of group chats started talking about it, and then I spent like the next 2 hours just following along with everything, kind of in disbelief. Um, I don't know. My initial reactions were like, "This is crazy. It's unprecedented. It's never happened before." Um, wasn't really till later on that I started thinking like big picture, like, okay, how is this going to impact Trump's next 14 days? How is this going to impact the nation for the foreseeable future? But my initial reactions were just kind of shock and disbelief. Although I guess now that we're at this point, we can look back and kind of see how it happened.
My first reactions, I found out about it. I think I saw something either on Instagram or on Twitter. I think it may have been on Instagram. I found out about it maybe around 4 or 5 that night, and then people started texting me about it, and I started again just followed with it, just followed it on the news. And my initial reactions were I I really wasn't surprised that something like this was happening, but I was surprised to that it got to like the degree of severity that it did. How like wild, I guess, the riots got. And when I heard people were like storming the Capitol building, I sort of had a thought in the back of my mind that this may be real, and I sort of just didn't want to believe that it was happening. And then I was following the news, and then I saw some pictures up on Instagram or some things that people were sharing, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually happening. And I didn't, and I was sort of, I was sort of in disbelief, but also kind of like I'm not surprised that this happened. And it was overall just a really shocking experience, and I was also just extremely disappointed in the people of of our country.
Yeah, I had a crazy schedule on Wednesdays, so I'm ashamed to say that I only found out about it on Thursday morning when my teachers were mentioning this, and I searched it up. I saw it on social media. It was everywhere, and it was just really shocking to me that something like this could happen. Um, and and I think it shocked everyone, Democrats and Republicans alike. And I think this will go down in history as one of the most shocking events that ever happened. I mean, there are truly no words to describe what kind of an unprecedented experience this was for everyone.
So on Jan 6th, I was just watching CNN, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all these mobs, and it was just a storm of people pushing through the police and breaking windows. It was just chaos, and I couldn't believe it. I was just in shock, and I was really surprised that this would happen from the Trump supporters, and was just in disbelief of what just happened.
I first heard of it happening when my phone started blowing up and I didn't know what was going on. And I was in all these group chats and they were like, oh my God, turn on the news. Everyone was posting about it. And I saw, but I can't say I'm surprised, mostly because there were a lot of things on social media. On TikTok, there are a lot of Trump supporters that were like, wait until the liberals hear about January 6th. I think the president himself tweeted January 6th be there. So like I wasn't surprised, but I guess I was shocked how people were going in stealing things and then not facing a lot of repercussions.
So on January 6th, probably around like 6 or 6:30, my dad told me to change the TV from whatever we're watching. And I saw that it was like on CNN, I think. I saw that there was like riots happening at the Capitol. And my initial reaction was just that I was disappointed and embarrassed that people they couldn't accept the results of a properly fair election. That's how basic democracy works. So yeah, I was really embarrassed in like the nation because we could have done so much better. Like the way the Republicans responded to this election was just overall embarrassing. Um, yeah, I wasn't really shocked because I kind of knew that something like this was gonna happen. Um, but yeah, it was disappointing.
Um, so I think it's a travesty that our Capitol building, like one of our pillars of democracy, was not better protected. Um, especially like you had so many warnings that something was going to happen. We didn't know what. Like I know I at least figured it was just going to be a big rally outside the Capitol. Nothing like this would happen. But I think one of the reasons, and I'm not defending it, I'm just pointing it out, is that. Um, oh, actually, this isn't a later question, so I'm going to save this answer. But um, I think that the Capitol Police, they too weren't expecting this. Like in the past, um, conservatives have, or even just Trump fans have been like, oh, like we're not rebellious. Like if Biden, like for example, if Biden wins the election, like I saw plenty of tweets that are like, we're not like you, like we're gonna go to work just like every day. And January 6th proved that was not the case. But I think that's part of the reason that the police and the security was so surprised, just like us, is because they too didn't know exactly what to expect. So
Um, I I have really mixed feelings about this, but I think that yeah, I think part of it is that they weren't expecting it, but I think another part of it was this may come off like the wrong way, but I feel like they didn't really want to acknowledge that something like this was happening, or they just didn't really, I don't want to say they didn't care enough, but I feel like that maybe they may have sided with some of the stuff, and I know eventually this was calmed down, but I think that they let it go on way too long. And I don't know, I think it's a mixture of people really not wanting to, people like siding with certain beliefs, and just the unfairness. Maybe that's really not, that probably sounds like a really childish way to put it, but like the unfairness of the system, because there were lots of I mean, there were lots of police here, but there were lots of police at the Black Lives Matter movement, and they had like shields, and they were tear gassing people, and they had like rubber bullets and everything. And I know they calmed this down eventually, but it's just sort of like really shocking that this action wasn't taken against these people who were rioting and breaking into the Capitol building. And I think that it was just a mix of people not wanting, the police really not really wanting to acknowledge that this is happening, and them sort of siding with the Republicans. Sorry, I don't know why I froze up there. But I'm not trying to trash our police. But I sort of I don't know. I just didn't agree with how they handled most of it. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that people definitely didn't expect this. I mean, this was probably to them before it happened, just like another Area 51 riot kind of thing, something that probably people were kind of building up, but wouldn't really happen in the end. And then it did, and no one was ready for this, no one. And so I think that's the main reason why it was so shocking to everyone, is that we didn't expect something to rise up to this scale. And it was just crazy for everyone, including the people who were trying to use force and to stop it.
It
I
is said
feel
that the Capitol Police got this notice in advance, but they didn't really care. They didn't think it was the riot was gonna be this big. And due to this, a lot of people were injured, and one police officer unfortunately died in this riot due to a fatal injury. And it was, I would say they could have handled it a bit more better. They could have contacted the National Guard in advance, but they didn't do that, unfortunately.
I feel like you should always be prepared. I mean, like I think that when Area 51 was happening, they did have like increased security, and I'm pretty sure they didn't when the Capitol was stormed. Like maybe you don't expect like people breaking in because that was definitely surprising, but increased security like was definitely something that needed to be considered, especially like seeing everything circling around in the media, seeing even the president trying to instigate his supporters. And we all know that his supporters like won't really listen to anyone else but like the president. So I think it was really stupid. I think that the president should have requested something. I think he probably knew, especially since he was calling people to the Capitol. People came from all over the country. It was really shameful, and I think it was done on purpose.
Um, I didn't really like see anything on social media about like what was gonna happen. I don't have Twitter and I didn't like see anything on TikTok, so I don't really like know the facts about the police knowing if some like riot was gonna happen at the Capitol. But I feel like overall the police and like the security at the Capitol should have just done a better job protecting the Capitol building because this is a major government building we're talking about. They, I mean, it should have been harder for the protesters and the rioters to storm into the building. It's kind of like, honestly, for me, I think it was a little shocking that they even got into the building because it's a big government building. It's just, it should have been harder to get in. Um, I don't know about the police knowing whether this was going to happen or not, but I do know that the president said to storm the Capitol. I heard it on the news, like a video of it. So I think if the police kind of knew that something like this was going to happen, they probably should have took extra precautions, considering during other protests, such as the Black Lives Matter protest, the peaceful protest that was happening near, I think it's the White House, and Trump like told his security to tear gas the peaceful protesters, and they were really like quick to take action on that. I think if they started to see a large crowd of people coming towards the Capitol building, they should have started like preparing, calling like other police stations, or trying to like doing whatever to like protect the Capitol building. And
So I'll just start off by saying I completely agree with the BLM movement. There's a systemic problem in our country that needs to be fixed. However, there's a lot of destruction that came from it that I do not agree with, and that's the same case with what happened at the Capitol. I do think it's a little unfair, though, to compare the two. One movement, is justifiable. It's, black people or black are getting killed at an unjust rate, and they're fighting for their lives. These people in the Capitol building are fighting for something that there's no proof. Like, it's all conspiracy theories, and there's no proof, and they're saying fighting back against tyranny. Well, every single claim about fraud was shot down. It was ridiculous. It was baseless. So, first of all, I think the comparison is a little bit ridiculous. But second of all, I guess if you just look at the violence aspect, um, I don't know how I feel about Republicans saying, like, if you didn't complain about BLM and Antifa, you can't complain about this. I don't agree with that, because it's, like I said, it's just they're coming from two completely different places. I don't think that you can say, I don't think that you can properly compare the two and say, like, they're either both right or they're both wrong. And I think that goes beyond the party line. I think many moderate Republicans and conservatives.
I think that, okay, first of all, I fully support the BLM movement. It's I think it's really important because, again, yeah, like you said, black people are getting killed at an unjust rate, and it's I don't understand how you can compare these two. In my this is just how I see it. Like, BLM is fighting against racial injustice, and black people are all over the country are just being oppressed and not treated not treated fairly, as as a severe understatement. But and these I don't think that I think that I don't even know where to start for this, but I think that it's really hard to compare these two, and I think, yeah, like you said, I think it's a lot of just theories, like conspiracy theories, because you don't have any facts to back that up, that Antifa was responsible for this, or not responsible, but that some people were part of Antifa. And I also don't think it's, I think it's just excuses looking for people to blame. It's just excuses looking for, what happened. Was it Antifa? Was it other leftists? And it's just sort of shocking to me that it's really hard for them to accept that, they lost. And I feel like that, I mean, there's nothing I can say that probably hasn't been said, but I said that's basically it. It's really, you can't really compare these two, and it's just really unfortunate that's where we're at.
No, I totally agree. I mean, there's no way you can compare the BLM movement with what happened on Wednesday. I mean, those are two completely different things. And I'm totally in support of the BLM movement. I think it's such an important fight against systemic racism. And when you talk about comparing the two, I mean, it's like saying that racial injustice is the same as, this denial that there is, like, there hasn't been voter fraud. Like, these people are saying that there is fraud occurring in this system, which of course is totally false. And they're kind of, you can't compare the two. I don't know why they could ever say that.
So if black people in the same way reached the capital, we would have experienced a killing slaughter, and the police really uh, treated the black people and these white people really differently in these protests. And I do really support the BLM, but the police treated them really differently. If you would compare the stats between these two, 316 people were arrested in the BLM movement, and only 60 people were arrested in the Capitol riots. So we can see that it was just really bad for the police to do this. And the pro-Trump Republicans, their statements are truly false, and many news articles say that he couldn't find any anti-FA at the Capitol, and FBI say there's no indication that the anti-FA took part in the U.S. Capitol riot.
Well, I think that the only reason they really brought up the Black Lives Matter protests was kind of like, oh, what about? They were trying to like shift the blame, and they weren't really willing to take responsibility for what happened. And I was so shocked because even Mike Pence, the vice president, stepped up and said, this is wrong. It is violent. The vice president gave their condolences to the officer's family. The president didn't do that, and that's really shameful. The police definitely, like, I don't believe in violence, and I mean, like, I applaud. I mean, I don't want to say I applaud the way they handled the situation because they handled it terribly. But I'm really glad not a lot of people got tear gassed and maced or whatever, because that's not like the job of the police. The police are supposed to protect people, and even though they were doing something terribly wrong, breaking into the Capitol, I'm glad a lot of people didn't get hurt. But the hypocrisy is so many. Like at Elijah McClain's there was a violin vigil and that got tear gassed. No one was fighting and it got tear gassed. And people are breaking into the Capitol here. No one's getting maced or tear gassed. The hypocrisy is just unreal. And it made me so mad. It made me so mad to see that, like, the differences in the way people were being treated. That's not to say I encourage violence, because I'm glad no one got tear gassed, maced, but just the differences were horrendous.
I totally agree. There's no way they should have compared Black Lives Matter to the riots that happened, because Black Lives Matter is fighting for basic human rights that everybody in this country should have, while the riots in DC is basically just a bunch of people who aren't accepting a properly fair and valid election. So I feel like no one should be comparing these two, a protest and riot together. And also, I feel like people saying that a lot of, like, most of the crowd at the riot was just people who like Antifa disguised as Trump supporters. I feel like that's basically blaming another group for the actions of their own. Like, they're the people who are not accepting the election, like the results. And then they riot at the Capitol building, and then they start, after everything happens, they're blaming Antifa, that it was them, they were the violent people. But it's just, it's like unbelievable that like they can do this. And yeah, honestly, like, I don't even know.
So at first I was in support of the 25th Amendment, but after hearing that it's very unlikely to happen, especially within what we have like 12 days left. So I'm actually in my preferred thing going forward would be impeachment. And honestly, it's not going to do much. Like I said, there's 12 days left, but the bigger impact is both setting a precedent. So there's symbolic impact there. It needs to be. I mean, no president has ever led an insurrection against the government. Like, that's just something that we can't accept, and it needs to be. You can't just get off scot-free and not have to deal with any repercussions. And second of all, I think it's very important that that they include a clause in there that he is not able to, because I think it could be, people have short memories, and especially with a fully Democrat-controlled government, we could see him come back in 2024 and build a solid supporter base. So I think it's important not only to set a precedent, but to ensure that he does not threaten our democracy again. As far as his legacy, up until this point, I've never been a Trump supporter, but my parents have always, they're always complaining about Trump, and I'm always like, well, look at it from this perspective. At this point, I can support conservatism, I can support all that, but I cannot support believing in Trump anymore. It's just, what happened is despicable, and it's all on him. So I think his legacy
I agree with the first part of what he said. I think that we can't let this go, and there has to be repercussions. I think that he definitely is unfit to run again, and I think he should be removed from office, because I am really afraid of what could happen in the next 12 days until 12 days. I think, I don't even know. Yeah, I think 12 days. Until Biden is inaugurated. I really think that he is unfit to be president, and because he could call for something like this again, and they would definitely do it, because his supporters would they'll die for this man. Well, not like literally, but like they will like they will go to really extreme lengths for him. And I think Pence, it's really low bar to clear, but I think Pence would be better for the next 12 days, because I feel he's just out of Trump. I feel like he's just out of control, and I'm glad that they removed him from Twitter, so he can't call for anything like this. But yeah, I think he should not be able to run again, and I think that he should face some repercussions for this, because this was just horrible, and it can't happen again, and that's really all. It just comes down to it can't happen again. And I think he's really lost it this time, so I think he should be impeached.
I am very much in favor of Trump's impeachment. I have never been a Trump supporter, but I do think that with all the tension that is present in the country, impeachment might have severe repercussions. And I'm a little worried that this violence might be instigated again. And that is why I would just say let things stay as they are and just hold on until Biden is inaugurated, because we can't ignore the tension that is present in the country and the divide that is starting to form between Republicans and Democrats.
I do agree. If Trump's get impeached in the last 12 days, it'll be even a bigger riot uh, in our country. And Trump should have gotten impeached like a long time ago when but they should have done that, but it couldn't get through. And I do, and it was a good thing they suspended his vote accounts, and it was like a good step in the right direction, because he does spread a lot of rumors and false information. So yeah, he should have. If he does get impeached, it'll be a big riot, and the police, like everyone, will be it'll be a big mess.
I kind of agree. I feel like impeachment or the 25th, either or, should be enacted, just because it's not, it won't really do anything because it's the last 12 days, but it's more like the statement it will make. Like, you can't do this. If we let him be in office, then it'll be like, this is a free pass. You can do this. You can riot against your government without any repercussions. And that's really disgusting. That's against everything that America really goes for. And it's insane that a sitting president would do that. And he also got permanently banned from both Facebook and Twitter. So I really don't think a president who got banned from social media should be able to be sitting president and have all those responsibilities, because clearly, if you have to take his phone away from him like a child, then maybe he's not fit to be president. I do think that it probably will cause a lot of violence, though, because all these Trump supporters are really kind of angry, and they won't accept that he lost. They will keep listening to him spew lies. So really, it does depend on whether the president is willing to step up and be mature, which I think we all know at this point he won't. But I think it's also a necessary step, especially in history. When we teach this to kids, we have to teach people that it's not okay, which obviously it's not, and that people can't get away with this, no matter if they're president or just like a normal citizen.
I agree with the impeachment, because in the next 12 days, like, I know it's only 12 days left of his time in the office, but I feel like he should be impeached because he invoked violence, and that's what caused the riot. And I feel like he could, because he's still the president, he can still say stuff, and I don't know, he could say something and then all of a sudden there's a riot happening at Joe Biden's inauguration, which would be really, really bad. But at the same time, if they impeach him, there's going to be violence. There's like violence either way, honestly, in my opinion, because Trump could say something and there could be a riot at the inauguration, but if they impeach him, then his supporters are going to get mad and they're going to start they're going to do something again. But I feel like impeachment is like the way to go because he's just not fit to be a leader. Social media was taken away from him, which is a really good thing. Yeah, I don't think he's fit for these last 12 days. He could say anything, do anything that could be harmful to like the nation in the future. So if you take away his right to like do that, it'll just be better for the country.
So I have very mixed feelings about how we should move ahead as far as trying to heal the divide in our nation. On the one hand, you want to preach tolerance, and because disagreeing with people's beliefs is only going to alienate them further. But at the same time, and obviously, I'm not saying the United States is Nazi Germany, but this is called the tolerance paradox, is that people in Nazi Germany, Hitler tried to fail a coup attempt. Nothing happened to him. 10 years later, Nazi Germany rose up. And so people were actually too tolerant of fascist ideas. And a lot of people like to say that what's happening now is fascism. That's up for debate, obviously, depending on what your party lines follow. So I'm not going to make a statement either way because personally, I don't have an opinion on that. But I think the proper way to move forward is not to belittle the beliefs of the people that we think are ridiculous and dangerous to the nation. And for just to clarify, I'm talking about I think conservatives and Trump supporters are in a little bit of a different group right now. You can be conservative and your ideas can be respected and stuff, but if you're like a Trump supporter, that's like a cult. Like you are loyal not even to a party at this point, you're loyal to a single person, and that's just not right. But anyways, I think what we need to do is analyze like why these people have been through economic upheaval because of the pandemic. They've been through a lot of situations that have turned them to this radicalization. So I think the way forward is not to belittle their beliefs and everything, but we need to figure out what has caused this and hopefully move from there to heal the wounds in our nation.
I think that I don't know. This is a really tough question. I just think that there's no pleasing everybody, and I think that that's just an acceptable. I just have to accept that at this point. I don't know. I just feel like I don't see. It's really hard. I mean, we're gonna have to move forward. I just don't really know how like a good way to, because there's gonna like I said, there's no pleasing everyone, and I honestly don't really, I can't really see a way that we can go. I mean, we can go forward. I just don't see, like, this is a really tough question. Sorry. I don't know. I agree with some of what he said. What's this? Oh no, Carter. Sorry, forgot your name. But yeah, there's no pleasing everyone, and I just hope we can move forward. Sorry, this is a tough question. I just didn't really think of an answer fast enough. Sorry, but that's really all I can say. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely both sides need to hear each other out. Both sides need to have like a nice, peaceful talk about the kinds of ideas that this country is built on, I'm sure they can both agree with those. And I think what's happening now is more about feeling superior, especially Trump supporters. They want to feel superior. They have this ego in them. And I think I recently watched a video where they brought in Democrats and Republicans, and they talked, and in the end, they were able to agree on many of the foundational ideas, such as equality and just natural rights for all. And so I think we all, in the end, we have the same ideas, but we need to hear each other out, and we need to understand that what's going on needs to change, and we need to heal the divide.
So when George Washington left the office, he left a farewell address, and in that he mentioned some advice that would bring our country forward. One of the advice is we shouldn't have political parties divided, and that is the case now. We are the most divided country in the world. Our two major political parties, the Democrats and Republicans, are very divided, and they fight with each other every day, and they don't agree on many things. And I would say that maybe we should just calm down and just agree on some things and just move forward and make our country better than what is it now.
I think it's a lot easier to said than done. Um, I think that it's the only way that, I mean, like a way we can start the process of healing our country is really to get Trump to acknowledge what he's done, because Trump supporters are like a different breed of Republicans. They're not, they just, like Carter said, they follow this one man. They are devoted to this one man. I've seen like I just moved here actually, and some people from my old school, like the Trump supporters, they'll be like, it's Trump against the Republican Party. They'll literally say that. And so obviously that's wrong. We don't want like some sort of cult third party forming um, that is so, that resembles fascism like so much, and it scares me. But he needs to step up and say like the things we've done, like the things he's done wrong. But also, I think the whole two-party system does not work, especially because if you identify solely with one party, you will not want to agree with any ideas that come from the other. So that really holds the divide. I feel like racism, homophobia, sexism, which I feel like is all rampant in people who support Trump, that definitely shouldn't be tolerated. And so I disagree with like we have to come up with a way to compromise, because there isn't really a way to compromise. I would still like to be paid as much as a man would be paid. I'd still like to get married to a woman one day, probably, and I just, that's not compromisable. And so some things are just over the line, and that is one of them is like human rights.
I fully agree with what Samrita said about how there's just some basic human rights that cannot be denied. And it shouldn't be tolerable that there's being hate crimes and people who are violent towards these groups of people. So that I definitely agree with, and no one should be denying those rights to anyone. Over the 4 years Trump was in office, I feel like the divide between Democrats and Republicans has gotten really, really it's just gotten really bad. Like, they disagree on so many things, and especially in this past year. So I feel like they all need to like cool down a little, and just, they shouldn't be like violent with what they stand for. Like, if you support something, don't I guess be violent about it. like state your opinion. Of course, there's like these specific things that you should just not have an opinion on because they're human rights. But yeah, I feel like both the parties just need to calm down a little bit and talk it out.
I just wanted to add, if that's okay, that I think a lot of Democrats and liberals are super happy that their party won all or the party has a majority in all three branches of government, or I'm sorry, all three houses. But I almost would have preferred if that wasn't the case, because the fact that there's now a Democratic monopoly on all of those means that Republicans and conservatives, there's a much easier avenue for them to be radicalized, because they're going to feel like they might feel like their voices aren't being heard and like they don't matter. And with the actions that could happen in the next couple of years, I just think that it opens the door for more radical.
If I could just add one more thing, I feel like I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because I feel like with the Democrats having control of all three houses, we'll finally be able to move forward, because it's not really a radical idea to defund the police. But I mean, that's like Joe Biden doesn't even want to do that. Joe Biden doesn't want to do a lot of things that Trump's claiming he does. Like, Joe Biden is not a socialist by any means. Like, no one in the Democratic Party is a socialist by any means. And I think that if people really knew the definitions of like socialism, communism, Marxism, anarchism, they would know and not really be so like against it. Like, I think it's a good thing, because we can finally move forward on like human rights issues, women's rights issues, LGBTQ issues, climate issues. That's really important to me, as it is a lot of people's. So I don't think it's a bad thing. But definitely, yeah, conservatives might feel like their voices aren't being heard.
Okay. I completely agree. Well, to it, I somewhat agree. As an independent, there's going to, especially who feels especially passionate about fixing climate change, among the other things that you listed. I just think, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for me or you or any of us in this call, but the people that voted Trump, that are already, against liberalism, they feel they have this hatred for it. And like I said, I feel like our job is to figure out why and how we can fix that. But I completely agree. I think the fact that some of these issues can be resolved is a great thing. I'm just saying that what is a great thing for us is not a great thing for them, and could lead to some more radicalization.
I have to say, like, saying that like rights are a great thing for us really does come from a place of privilege. Like, I think the reason people might have voted for Trump in the beginning might have been jobs and economy. People just aren't willing to listen to Biden, and overall the economy does do better under left-leaning presidents, and I can send you the source for that later. But I just the way that you phrased it, like, I don't think people should be against rights. Like, is egalitarianism really worse than fascism? I don't think so. And I think a lot of people would say that, we want to come to a place where we're all equal. Like, I don't see why, like, I think if people were more understanding, then yes, but they're just kind of like homophobic. They're racist. They don't like Black people. They don't like gay people. They don't like women. So, I mean, like, it is a good thing. I think it's a good thing for all of us, even if they don't realize it. Maybe they feel like their voices aren't being heard, but I don't think that shutting down groups that have been oppressed is a way to move forward.
I think we're saying similar things, just coming from a different standpoint. I think you're right. Rights are good for everybody. They don't realize that, and that's the issue that we face as a nation, is that you take a white conservative from Kentucky their concerns are not same-sex marriage. Their concerns are not, raising or eliminating the wage gap. Their concerns are, my free speech, I don't want you to tax me. And I think our job as a nation is to figure out why that is, so that we can have equality. I'm not trying to say that rights aren't good for everybody. That's not what I was trying to say. I'm just saying that the way that they perceive liberal agendas is different from how they should. Just more of what I said. I personally am happy. We're going to be able to get a lot of good things done for the nation, but we do need to be on alert that there could be a continue. And this is exactly why I want Trump to be impeached, so that in 2024 we can't have an issue where there's a group that feels as if their voices aren't being heard, that can rally behind this almost dictator-esque figurehead. So I'm not going to spend too long on this question just because I already kind of talked about it, but I do think it's a good thing, but some people aren't going to see it as a good thing, and we need to try to figure out how we can help people so that it's a good thing for everybody.
I agree with what parts of what he said, and I think that yeah, there's gonna be like no pleasing everyone, and I do want to find a way that we can move forward as a nation, and also have not people like be pleased, but have them at least get it to a point where they can sort of accept what's happening, rather than like rioting over it. I just hope that we can find sort of a a way, like I said, just a way for them to at least accept what's happening, and to maybe not fulfill their wishes or whatever all the way, but maybe at least be a little bit partial to them, so just to keep them, I want to say keep them happy, but like maybe just to, I guess, keep them happy, but like I don't know, I just hope that I think that we can get a lot of stuff done in the future with Biden as our president. And I don't know, I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like there's a way to move forward. I mean, we have to move forward. I just feel like there's a way, but we just haven't found a like an efficient way yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that event was really surprising and very inspirational for me, honestly, because of how Republican Georgia's been in the past. And it's definitely going to be hard. I mean, moving forward from all of the political tension that's occurring in this nation. And like Mateo said, there's no pleasing everyone. Like there's always going to be people who are against what's going on in the nation and who want to feel like their voices aren't being heard. Like that's always going to be a present fact in our nation, and in every nation, honestly. So I think we should definitely focus on the most pressing concerns right now, including supporting the BLM movement and all of those great things that need to occur and need to change in this nation. And then we can then focus on people who still are feeling oppressed and kind of help everyone move forward together.
For a lot of Georgia's history, Georgia only turned blue 3 times. This is the fourth time in 28 years, and does Georgia turn blue? And it's a really good moment and a happy moment. And for the future, Mr. President Biden elect and Kamala Harris will be sworn in on the 20th, and I'm really looking forward to that. And one of the proud moments is Kamala Harris, the first woman in the office, and it's a really proud moment for the Indian community, and it shows that there are a lot of possibilities that can happen. And Biden did address a lot of things that will be changing, and a lot of things that will implement to move our country forward, like reducing the COVID cases and putting it down, and many other uh, issues that he has addressed. And I'm looking forward for the next 4 years. But unfortunately, Biden will not serve a second term. I'm hoping that Kamala Harris will be the next president after Joe Biden, and I'm really looking forward for the future. Thank you.
My reaction to the Georgia runoffs, I was kind of surprised. I thought that the Democrats would only be able to win one seat, and I was really surprised when they won both. Um, I mean, I was happy. Like I've said this before, I think this is a really big step for our country because we'll be able to move forward. But I mean, like there are Republicans or right-leaning people who will be against it, but I feel like those people are they're really they're really not what are the whole conservative party represents. Like there are some people that I know personally um, who say that they support fascism and they're racist but they know it and they don't care, and that's like part of the problem here. Like they don't care because it doesn't affect them, and so I don't think those people should have an input, honestly. If they're going to be racist and they're going to disregard other people's like existence, then why do we have to listen to them?
My reaction to the Georgia runoff was I was just glad that they won both seats, Democrats on both seats. As you guys all mentioned, that yeah, there's probably going to be people who oppose that, but I feel like after 4 years of Donald Trump and a more like Republican like nation, I guess I feel like this will be a change to our country, and it'll be good for it because there's a lot of, you could say, historical things that happened. Georgia turned into a blue state, which I think Himu mentioned. It's only happened like 3 times, so that was quite historical. And then, of course, we have a female Black and Indian American vice president, which is a big step for the Black and Indian community in the U.S. So yeah, I feel like these next 4 years are just going to be kind of a refresher from everything that happened in the past 4 years. And there's obviously going to be people opposing, but like I feel like Democrat voices weren't really heard in the past 4 years. So now that we have more Democratic president and vice president.
I think that I'm just gonna get it. I think it's a good thing because I know there's like the whole free speech thing, and but I mean, like the level that this is at, it's sort of just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable at this point because he's calling for rioting and whatnot, and I do think that it's really unsafe to have this person who's so out of touch with things to not because like it's I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. I think it's. I think that was a good call because because we don't know what he can. We can't trust him to say anything now because we don't know what he would say, and I think that was a good choice because I think it's just taken it too far this time. I mean, he tweets a lot of like BS in a lot, and but this was just way too far. This was not him saying, "Oh, this sad" or whatnot, but this was like actual like inciting violence and stuff. So I think that he just took it way too far this time.
Yeah, that was necessary. I mean, the idea of free speech is for people whose voices aren't being heard, and I think his voice was definitely heard. I mean, he is talking to hundreds of Trump supporters across the country. They are listening and hanging on to every word that he says. Everything he posts or puts on social media, they are interpreting in a violent way. And so I think it was definitely necessary. Twitter has their regulations, they expect that people follow their regulations. So this was a violation of what they expected from everyone. And so I think it was, totally necessary.
I'm pretty sure Trump didn't read the terms of use of Twitter and Facebook. They clearly say do not spread false information, harmful information, or inappropriate information, and you will and it says you'll be removed or your account will be suspended until further use. And it is a step in the right direction that Trump got suspended from both from Twitter and Facebook, and I hope he also gets banned from YouTube or Instagram or any other social media he owns. It is really a good step in the right direction, and yeah.
I also think I agree. Um, I think it's a great step in the right direction. He was spreading so much harmful information that I think he knew that all his followers would listen to because again, as we've said before, his followers don't listen to anyone else except him. Parlor is I have an account. Parlor is it's a social media platform where it's incredibly right leaning. It's like the alt right is on there, basically Nazis who spew misinformation, and it's like a breeding ground for like neo-Nazis and fascists and anything alt right. So that's why that's being taken off. It's so dangerous. It's really disgusting to see. Like I haven't posted anything or said anything on the platform, but I just got it because I wanted to see what people would say. And it's just a breeding ground for the alt-right. Lots of alt-right groups are on there. There are lots of dog whistles being used. And that's why that's being taken on. I think that's a good thing, especially since because of the political climate right now. It's not exactly in the best place. And anything, it's kind of fragile right now. So any like wrong step or someone like misspeaks or someone says something that riles this crowd up would cause huge consequences.
I'm personally glad that they banned Trump because he was probably going to use the platform again to incite violence in his followers or spread false claims about the election again. And it doesn't matter if he's the president or not. He's using his right of free speech to incite violence in the country. And that's just wrong. I know everybody has a right to free speech, but I feel like the president is just abusing that power he has. And I'm really glad that they banned him permanently off of Twitter, because if they hadn't, he could have probably took more drastic steps. He probably could have said stuff that would have been really bad and consequential in the future.